welcome to Women's Wealth, the podcast with me, Joanne. My mission is to educate, inspire, and empower you all to step into your own life of wealth. That feeling of being so rich in your mind, body, and soul. I'm so happy to have you here. Let's get straight into it. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Women's Wealth, the podcast with me, Joanne. I am your host and I'm so happy to have you here. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a story. So last week you will have had we're working through the cycles, so you will have listened to spring. Previous to that, you may or may not have noticed that I had a week off. I didn't post my podcast. So this is a little bit backtracking, a bit of a flashback to the past couple of weeks, but I just wanted to share that I didn't post anything. I had a good 4 days off social media, didn't share my podcast that week, didn't post anything onto my YouTube because I was just not feeling it. I wasn't feeling myself, and the old me would have just carried on as normal, allowing my ego to take control. You need to post this, you've got to do this. If you don't, then all these horrible things are going to happen. Loads of people are going to notice that you don't do it. My mind would have been going on and on and on, and I would have just carried on and on and on, making myself feel worse. But what I did do was I listened to not necessarily my body, but to my mind. I wasn't depressed. I just, or stressed or sad. I just felt a little bit, I can only describe it, and I know this isn't an emotion. Oh, what's the point? And I could feel myself drifting into some old patterns of comparison, going on social media, comparing myself to others, what other people are doing, and why is this not happening for me? What are they doing differently? Reading things of, oh, you need to do it this way, you need to be saying it this way, and posting like, dressing this way, looking a certain way, and all of those, that spiral that we can fall into. I felt it coming, so I switched off, and it really helped. And this is just a little reminder that, I post a lot, and, positive thinking, and do this, and try this, and use these oils, and they do work. But I think at the same time, it's also important, as someone who does share their life on social media, not their life, but my job, I don't share my life on social media, but it's part of my job, and I want to uplift people and share advice, and I do my podcast sharing advice and sharing my own story. But I also think, as part of my own story, because I'm doing this, I should share when I have shit days. And the shit days where the things that I teach people about, the witch ruling, that's my comparison, and comparing myself to others and getting stressed out because they look like they're doing better than me and things aren't happening for me, and allowing myself to get into this inner turmoil. I share about that and how to not do it. So I need to share when it does still happen to me. And I'm not perfect. I still have my anxious days. And, as someone who has suffered with anxiety, that's probably just going to be part of my life. It's how you deal with it. So instead of me just carrying on, pretending everything is perfect, now I say, right, okay, I've got these feelings. I tell my partner, this is how I feel. I feel shit. I felt like I needed to sleep more. I needed to come off social media. I needed to be quiet. I still had the little voice in the back of my head that was telling me, you should go to that event. You should be doing this. You should reach out to this person. Stop staying at home and being so miserable. Yes, I listened to the voice that told me to slow down, step back, take your time, allow yourself to feel. It's okay to have these days. We're human. We're only human. So this is your reminder that if you are or do have these days, feel into it. Allow yourself to have some space, because you will come out the other side. And if you don't, what you might find is that you're stuck there for longer. So that's it. That's the podcast now. 4 minutes. Now we're going to get straight back into talking about the inner seasons. So we started with winter. The last one before I took a week off, we looked at spring. And today I'm going to do 2 in 1. because I'm going on holiday. So I want to finish the 4 before I travel, and then I'm going to take a couple of weeks break, mainly because I don't know if I'll have Wi-Fi on our first little stay. But keep your eyes peeled, because one of my Wealth Wednesdays is going to be spend the day with me in Bali. So switching it up a little bit there, and I'll probably will record a podcast while I'm there as well, just not maybe for the first week. So this is why I'm going to squish uh, summer and autumn into one today. So grab a coffee, grab whatever it is that you want to have drink, maybe a notebook, and let's get into it. Okay, so your summer is your ovulation. So this is when we might feel great. A little bit of a disclaimer here. I do feel amazing in my summer. So it's when we come into, so we've had our follicular phase and it's estrogen dominant. So we come into our summer and we start to ovulate. Now, I feel great in my summer until ovulation. Now, I don't know if this is because I'm getting older, but when I ovulate, I have 2 or 3 days where, of course, I can tell I'm ovulating because the consistency, and I know people cringe at the word discharge, but discharge changes. And I just feel really, really tired. And I'm going to go into some feelings around ovulation. Once that has passed, then I feel normal again until obviously I hit my autumn, and then I kind of, because progesterone is then dominant, I kind of then drift back into a little bit of tiredness there. So summer, think of summer again. It is your blooming. Your body is ready to be impregnated. And I know I say this all of the time, whether you want to or not. We are animals. Our body, our cycle is created to support us getting pregnant and being pregnant. So our estrogen levels reach our peak, which trigger testosterone. So it is a nice feeling. You might feel a little bit more frisky. We feel like we want to go out. We actually look at ourselves differently. When we look at ourselves in the mirror during our ovulation, we feel more attractive. Our voice changes, our smell changes. Weirdly, when I am ovulating, when I'm in my summer, my dogs are way more clingy. So they can obviously smell that something is happening there. They're way more protective. If my partner comes over to me, George, my brown chihuahua, if you have me on socials, he is like, right, get off her. And, we laugh at it. We probably shouldn't promote that kind of behavior, but, he's so tiny, it's cute, it's funny. He doesn't bite, he just gives him a growl and says, like, leave her alone. Get off my mum. That's what we give him words. Get off my mummy. That's his voice. That's George's voice. Anyway, I digress. So the purpose of ovulation, like I said, is to get pregnant. This is why those things happen. We look like we feel, we look better, we feel good, our voice changes, our smell changes, we're attracting our mate. This is the equivalent of in the animal world when the peacock gets his feathers out. It's interesting that humans are the opposite to most animals. So if you think about ducks, peacocks, those monkeys with the big red bum, I can't think of their names, but they're all male. And obviously we call it peacocking, don't we? You may have heard that phrase when you go to a bar and the men are standing there and they've got their shit shirts on and they're covered in aftershave and they're looking for their mate for the evening. So we'd call that peacocking. It's showing off. That is sort of the way that it happens in the animal kingdom. In the human kingdom, it's the women that go through this peacocking phase when they ovulate. And I always find it interesting that it's, I don't know why that is. Maybe this is a podcast for another time. I'm just thinking out loud here that we put on the makeup, we dress ourselves up to attract. But in the animal kingdom, it's the males that do that to attract the women. Maybe it's something to do with the patriarchy. Who knows? I blame them for everything. What, thousands of years ago, and millions maybe, when the first humans on the planet were here, maybe it was that way. But someone male was like, right, okay, we need to change this. Who knows? This is me speculating. That's a total conspiracy. My mind is full of conspiracies. I love conspiracy. Most conspiracies exist because they are facts, however. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent today. You can tell I'm in my spring. So I've just come out of my winter. I think I'm on about day 3 now of my cycle. So I'm getting excited and in a good mood today. So I might digress a few times as we go through our summer and autumn today. So your mood in summer. I have a little list here. You'll know you're in your summer because, first of all, you won't be bleeding. So that's a massive sign. And you'll be around 15 to, depending on how long your cycle is, 14, we're just going to go for the 28-day cycle for ease. So around day 14 upwards. So you're firing on all cylinders. You feel unstoppable. You feel level-headed. You're able to articulate your thoughts and feelings clearly. You've got some serious sass going on. If you're single, you're flirting. If you're in a relationship, you might be feeling a little bit more frisky. You're in the mood for pleasure. I've just said that one. I've wrote that one down twice. You find yourself getting tingly and wet, a little bit more moisture down below. Of course, this is our body getting us ready for that impregnation, whether you want it or not. As estrogen rises and reaches its maximum, your cervical fluid increases in volume, fluidity, and slippiness. So this is when you know that you're ovulating. So you might notice that you feel that wetness, and it's more. You'll know it's less sticky. It has more of a liquid fluid texture to it than before and after. You'll know what I mean if you're listening to this and you're a female, so we don't need to go into too much detail. And I'm just going to go through a few of the things. So during our summer, we're ready to expand. We're ready to say yes to new opportunities, to new outings, to meeting new people, to pleasure, to connection, to communication. So this is our estrogen that's pushing us out there. But we do need to be careful. Sometimes when we're in our summer, we can do so much that we might end up reaching some kind of burnout when we come to our other phases. This is where self-care comes throughout your cycle, because yes, you might feel amazing, but this is the time when if we just spend a little bit of time looking after ourselves, that it's going to make our autumn and our winter a little bit more gentle. The same as what I mentioned in spring. So throughout the cycle, just thinking, okay, yes, I do feel amazing, but can I protect myself here? So you might feel like, yes, I want to do that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go here. Let's do that. But when you actually put these dates in your diary, you're in your summer, so you're feeling it. It might be that you're saying yes to something, and in 2 weeks' time, it's your first day of your bleed, or you're deep into your autumn and you're not going to feel it. So just having these thoughts in mind of, oh, okay, no, that's my bleed day. Maybe I'll say yes, or let me put a pin on it. Let me think about it. Let me see how I feel on that day. And that's okay. We're kind of conditioned that we have to say yes to all of these things. This is the people pleaser in us. But we can say no. We can say, do you know what? That is my first day of my bleed. So let me just have a think about it, because you probably not going to feel like it on that day, and that's okay. And just going back to what I mentioned for my own ovulation. So there's a lot of energy that's required to ovulate. There's a lot going on inside our bodies. So our estrogen levels are peaking. This takes a lot from our bodies to do. And our testosterone is also up there, and we feel amazing, but then there is this sudden drop. And this is where, for me, I have those 2 days where I'm tired. And what happens is our estrogen levels peak, we ovulate, and then they start to drop, and our progesterone starts to rise. And again, this is a big thing within our bodies. So you might also feel that you have this drop after your ovulation when you're in your summer. And again, it's okay. So all of these books that we read and, other podcasts that you might listen to, like, oh, this is your summer, do this, do that, and it's all amazing. Just please be aware that you may also feel this drop. So yes, it's summer and it's amazing, but once that your estrogen starts to decline and progesterone slowly starts to creep after ovulation. Now, ovulation is only a couple of days, 3 days. So if you're trying to get pregnant, this is the window. It's a very, very small window. It always makes me I'm always amazed by how obviously the world is full of people, and how crazy it is that so many people were able to have sex on the day that within this 3 day window, because either side of this window is a lot more difficult to get pregnant. So your friends or even yourselves who maybe got caught and you've got these babies now that you didn't necessarily plan for. Obviously, if you're trying for a baby, you will know these ovulation days. You will know that these are the 3 days that we need to be getting at it. But if you're not and you got pregnant, how crazy out of the whole cycle that you managed to do it on the days when you're most fertile. It's not crazy. I've just said crazy, but your body you would have been feeling this. And this is where the animalistic side of us comes in, that, those 3 days, your body would have been preparing you for that. So maybe it isn't so much of a coincidence, is it? Sorry, I'm again just thinking out loud here. This is me in my spring. The thoughts are traveling from one to another.
Just interrupting this episode to remind you to please like, subscribe, drop 5 stars if you enjoy listening to my podcast. It really does mean the world to me. And also to remind you, you can now watch every episode on my YouTube channel. Head to YouTube, type in Joanne Wellth, and I'll see you there.
Okay, so exercise in our summer. I would split your summer up into 2. So when you are just coming into your summer, maybe hit, that high intensity cardio, start to build it up, heavier weights. And then when you start to feel like you're coming out of the other side, so after you've ovulated, you can still do the cardio, but maybe start to slow the cardio down. So maybe not as high intensity, or, if you do classes and, just take it easy. Don't push yourself too much. You're still there, you're still doing it, but take extra breath breaks, just pause. Maybe take some vinyasa yoga if you're an Ashtangi yogi, these kind of things. So just have in your mind that, okay, I've reached my peak, I've ovulated, I'm coming down the other side, I'm working into my autumn, so I'm just going to slow down a little bit here. So it's coming back to that self-care of understanding where your body is at and paying attention. So we work through and we cycle sync our life here. We cycle sync so that it's supporting us throughout. The main part that we want to support ourselves in is our menstrual bleed, the actual bleed, day one. We want to be able to have the energy to deal with that, to carry on with life. We live in a modern world, so we can't have off the first day of our bleed off work, so we need to prepare for this. So when you're in your summer, of course, go out, leave space in your diary to have fun. However, be careful not to say yes to too many things after that time if you know that you get tired when you're in your autumn and your bleed. It's a perfect time also to go on dates if you're single. This is also the perfect time to spend with your partner because you're feeling good, you're feeling attractive. So really just allowing yourself to enjoy this time. Do the work. So I plan my work schedule as best as I can. And I think I mentioned this in the last podcast, especially with content creation. I try and create all of my content over in my summer. So of podcast, my podcast, I don't. But everything else, if you see me, if you have me on social media, most of that is done when I'm coming into my ovulation and just after. So in the middle of my cycle, because I'm just on it. I feel creative. and I'm getting it done, so that when I do have those days post ovulation and coming into my autumn and my winter, if I'm a little bit tired, everything's already done for me, so I don't have to think about it. Now, if you listen to our winter podcast, we do have our creativity there, and we're highly intuitive in our winter. But it's nice just to get it done in your summer when your energy level is higher. I hope that makes sense. When you're in your ovulation as well, this is a good time to do all of the things that you're afraid of. So public speaking, making that phone call, sending that email, jumping out of an airplane if that tickles your fancy. So anything that you put off or you don't feel like you can achieve at other times of the month, see how it feels to do in your summer. Because of our spike in estrogen, we naturally do feel more courageous, brave. Obviously, we have that energy. So see how it feels to take those steps. And one thing that I like to do in my summer is make a list of all the things that I have achieved. So I know I said at the beginning of this podcast, I had those shitty days last week and I was in my autumn. I was just coming up to my bleed. And what I didn't do, and lesson learned, which is why I'm sharing this now, is in my summer making a list of all of the things that I have done well. And, it's just a mini celebration of yourself. So, yes, I've got new clients. Yes, I've made my, coming up to 10,000 podcast downloads. Yes, I've got 1,000 YouTube subscribers. All of these things that last week where I was like, what's the point? No one wants to listen to what I've got to say. If I had only just had this list of reminders, because I know them, but I wasn't thinking about them. I wasn't thinking straight. I was allowing my mind just to go off on a tangent. But if I had wrote this list out, which I've done lots of times before, it really would have helped. So taking time when you're in your summer to write this list, to remind yourself of all the amazing things that you have done. So when you're feeling shit, you can pull that list out. Trust me, it works. So I'm going to go into autumn now. So our autumn, again, thinking about nature, think about how nature changes, how we go from summer to autumn, the leaves start to fall off the trees, everything starts to go brown. We're in our luteal phase, and this is where our progesterone is more dominant. So estrogen starts to drop, progesterone starts to rise. Now, progesterone is pro-gestation. Your progesterone is there to support pregnancy. The first days of the rise in your progesterone could be the days when you do feel most crappy. And it is for me. So this is around day 20 to 21. So yeah, we have our 3-day ovulation. And I'm pinpointing the main things here. You may get through your cycle without these spikes, and it changes every month. So for me, some months I know that I'm ovulating, I feel amazing, and then I'm tired and I can feel my progesterone levels start to rise, and then I just float through, have my bleed and carry on. Other months, like my last cycle, was a bit more difficult, and my progesterone must have spiked and I felt crap for a few days, and then once I got my bleed, then I started to feel better. So and now I'm slowly coming out of that, and I'm introducing exercise. I didn't exercise either last week. I did yoga, that was it, because I normally do spinning and I do a little bit of a HIIT, but I was like, no, I could not imagine of anything worse. When I was on around day 24 last week, I went to the gym and I just sat on the massage machine because that's all I could face. And you know what happened? Nothing. I had a lovely time. My legs were stretched and I felt amazing after. And I didn't go to the class that I went to the gym for. And it's fine because I listened to my body. This month I might be able to go straight through. Who knows? But it's about understanding. It's about having that connection with your own body. So here's how you'll know. So again, a little list for you here when you're coming into your autumn. So like I said, around day 20, day 21 of a 28-day cycle, you start to feel slower. You feel yourself detaching and withdrawing. your energy slumps and you start to turn inward. You're more sensitive to criticism. Now, this is me, and I think it's important to tell your partner, if you have one, when you're coming into your autumn, because they could say something and you snap, and it's because you're more sensitive. And I read somewhere, and it's so interesting, that it's our body's way of trying to get rid of the person. Remember, it's all animalistic. We're meant to get pregnant by this person. They're meant to, you know, impregnate us. But when they don't, we can become short-tempered with them. And it's our body's way of kind of trying to get rid of them. Our body doesn't know. Our body doesn't have thoughts and feelings. So we become more sensitive. And we start to get annoyed by this person as well. And this is just nature. Just tell them, look, this is what happens. This is why I get short with you. It's the equivalent of the spider who eats the male spider after the female spider that eats the male spider after they're done. She's like, done, don't need you now, so I'm just going to eat you. Obviously, we don't do that, but we might just bite their heads off in a different way and just explain, look, I don't mean it, and we know we don't mean it. And we can't help it. We have that feeling, and I've tried to explain to my partner before, like, I cannot help it. We could be just walking the dogs and I feel like, oh my God, this is really annoying. Things start to trigger me. Last week I was getting overwhelmed, comparing myself to others, really being critical on myself. But I just retreated and I told him, and I was like, look, I feel a bit like my autumn's a bit deep. My progesterone levels must be really high this month. Like, just bear with me. This is also a time when you might feel that your gut feeling and your intuition is also rising. And again, that's a positive thing. Listen to it, but also just be wary that it could be a mixture of the two. So if you do feel the criticism, and you need to really tune in, so is this intuition or is this my body reacting to criticism? So just reflecting there, taking a moment to reflect. You might become more assertive. Again, can be a positive, can also be a negative. You want things done a certain way. This, in the animal kingdom, can also be seen as nesting. So in your house, if you're particular about the way that you like things, and the dirty cups in the sink and the socks on the floor, or suddenly start making you pissed off and angry, just take a step back, breathe, it's okay. And you can just, I literally tell myself, your progesterone levels are high. This is why you feel this way. I take a breath, and then I, do my best to try and not take it out on anybody else. And this is normal. Our levels, our hormone levels are changing. And what I really want to get across is that this is an ongoing thing every single month. And if you have these moments and you can track it and you can see what part of your cycle it's happening, it's okay. When it starts to get in the way, when it starts to become debilitating, or when it starts to be out of this order, out of this cycle, this is when I would say, right, we need to have a look at what's going on with your hormones. Are they imbalanced? So this is why it's so important to have that connection, because we can then see when things are off. Now, your libido here may also do a vanishing act. So we go from feeling like woohoo to absolutely no way. And again, explain this to your partner. Once they understand that we have this different cycle, like my partner is fine. And I will just say, he asks me sometimes, where are you in your cycle? If he's forgotten, he generally does know. He also can pick up on it now. And it's nice to be able to say, oh, I'm just coming out of the other side. And he has that understanding. And he's a science teacher, so he gets it. So just really share this with your partner, and hopefully they will understand too. And if they don't, sit down with them and tell them again, because we're not simple creatures. We don't just have the same system every day, which means that we can be horny every day, because once our progesterone levels spike and our estrogen levels drop, our body isn't geared up for that, because it's expecting an egg to get fertilized, and now it's gearing up to look after this egg. So the mating part is done. whether it is or not. Our body doesn't know that. Our body doesn't know if we want the baby or not. It just goes through this anyway. So the mating part is done, it's coming up to the other side, and now it's getting ready to look after this egg, whether it's there or not. Obviously, when it's not there, we have our bleed. So our superpowers here in our autumn are our focus, are our intuition, are our ability to be organized. Have a look at your schedule here. Clean your house, sort out your wardrobe, make some space. New things can't happen if we don't have space for other things. Get rid of what's not working for you. So all of these things we can do every single month. I sorted out my wardrobe actually last week. I hadn't done it for a while. Have a bag of things I've been holding on to. Make space for new things. Now I have like 10 empty coat hangers in my wardrobe. Amazing. I can eventually, go and replace things. It means I can go shopping and get some clothes. Actually, my new thing, side note, is getting my clothes made, because I'm really struggling to find things that I like in the shops now. Or I look at the price and I'm like, no, this is silly. Like, things are really expensive. So I've started to go to the fabric shops in Dubai and get my clothes made, and it's really nice actually. That means they're bespoke and it's just one of a kind and it's just for me, which I really, really love as well. So in our autumn, this is where our inner critic, our inner witch hunter might come out. And I've wrote some things down. These were some of my thoughts from last week. You're useless. You're pathetic. You're disgusting. You look old. You're a mess. Everyone else is so much better than you. Nobody wants you. Nobody wants to listen to you. And they were some of the things I wrote them down. And thought, I'm going to share this in my podcast because I know that other people will be feeling that way. And none of those things are true. When I read them now, I'm like, oh gosh, it was only 5 days ago. So dealing with your inner critic, dealing with your inner witch wound, retreat if you need to. Take yourself in. I binged watched Netflix. If you haven't watched The Man with 1,000 Kids, watch it. That's what I watched as I was coming to in my autumn, coming into my winter last week, because I just needed some TV where I didn't have to think, where I could just let myself just not think about anything. Just let my inner critic just go and not challenge it and not try and, prove it wrong and go out, because I was comparing myself to others on social media. But I knew that, right, okay, this is what's going on. My progesterone levels now are dropping. I'm coming into my winter. I've been through my autumn. I feel slow, I feel low, I feel tired. I'm just going to feel it. I'm going to switch off from the world. And it really, really did help me. Other things that I do here are I stay hydrated. I sleep when I need to sleep, slow down with my exercise. I don't plan big dinner dates. We'll go to cinema, or, I probably won't hang out with friends at this time either. And just lie down, just allow yourself to chill. I want to talk a little bit about anger as well. My partner, and it really makes me angry, and when he says it, he's like, "You're so angry sometimes," and I'm not. It is, and I'm going to blame my hormones here. It's the phase of our cycle, and it's when people might call us, oh, she's crazy, she's this. My partner calls me angry, and I will get triggered by certain things, but in this part of your cycle, it's the lack of hormones. And I can watch one video and it just really triggers me. And if I allow it, I can be in a mood and I can go into this hormonal rage. And it is a thing. But we need to be able to, again, we need to feel it, and we need to just, okay, this is why I feel this way. I'm sorry that I might be coming across as angry. However, and then explain your thoughts and feelings. Now, I can't remember what I was getting angry about last week, and my partner was like, "Gosh, you're so angry today," and I nearly bit his head off like that spider. Um, but I just said, "Look, you know that I'm coming up to my bleed, and I have a strong opinion about this, and I feel like it's so easy." And I said this to him. Men are so quick to call women angry when they have a strong opinion about something. And these strong opinions might just come out when we are in our autumn, when we are coming up to our bleed. And that's okay. But what we need to do is not allow them to consume us so we're filled with that rage and we just reflect, take a few breaths, go and have a lie down. And last week there was, I think it was women's spaces that triggered me. Watching the UK, I'm not there. I haven't voted. I can't have a say about it. But people sharing videos of the new leader, right now, I haven't got any thoughts about it. But last week I saw a video of other leaders talking about immigration and these things, and I was really triggered. And women's spaces, and are women going to lose their spaces because this party, the both all the parties, all the politics are crap. They're all, they have hidden agendas, and I know that. But last week I just got so angry, and I had to voice my opinions. But then I pulled it back, and that's okay. And I explained, I was like, look, it's triggered me because here I am in my cycle. My hormone levels have dropped, and just let me voice my opinion. And that's all I've got to say about that. Let's move on from that. So the imbalance of progesterone is what is most common. I have a list here that the signs and symptoms that you might face if your body, is not producing enough progesterone. So you might have breakthrough bleeding. So this is bleeding in the second half of your cycle. Difficulty in getting pregnant, difficulty in staying pregnant, PMS, premenstrual headaches, heavy menstrual cycle, irregular cycles or more frequent cycles, bloating and or water retention, swollen breasts, clumsiness, poor coordination, clumsiness, itchy or restless legs. So, if you're just tapping your legs, difficulty sleeping, and cysts. So, low progesterone is usually caused by taking the hormonal pill, high cortisol levels. If your diet is lacking in certain things, and list these here: vitamin A, vitamin B6, vitamin C, and zinc. This can also be a cause of low thyroid, aging, or perimenopause, menopause. So if you start to notice these things creeping in, a hormonal check might be in order. So test your progesterone levels, but remember that some months this can spike depending on what you've eaten, drank, your sleeping cycle, how much you've worked. So our hormones will spike and change each cycle. If it's an ongoing thing for 3 to 4 months, then just a quick blood test will tell you what you need to know. When we're stressed and under pressure, this is when it can affect our cortisol levels, which then can affect our progesterone levels. So again, just reflecting on your stress for that previous month or previous months before. I'm going to give you a few things here to help. So if you do feel like, oh, that is me, maybe my progesterone is low or out of balance, see if waking up with sunrise helps. Don't close your curtains when you go to bed. Allow this come awake naturally if you can. Of course, if you have to wake up early before sunrise. And as soon as you wake up, drink a glass of water. So I have water next to my bed anyway, which I think most people do. And I'm trying to get into the habit of I'll just drink as much as I can as soon as I wake up. Now we have blackout curtains and I wear an eye mask. But sometimes, and at the moment my partner is traveling. So this week, as I did have that dodgy few days at the end of last week, I am sleeping without and leaving a gap in the curtains to see if that helps. Eat before you have your morning coffee. If you can, maybe have a couple of days where you skip your morning coffee. But I know for some, this, if you just have one coffee a day and this is your treat, just make sure you eat before. Make sure that you get your blood sugar levels balanced before you have that caffeine. Have a bowl of porridge, have some fruit, something with some fiber. Have a mid-morning snack. Don't starve yourself. Make sure that you eat a decent lunch. So if you're on salads and soups for lunch without any protein or carbohydrates, see if you can enter or bring something like that into your diet. Leave your phone at home if you can. Try and limit your screen time. If you work on a computer, obviously that can be really hard, but when you're at home, if you've been on a screen all day, put your phone away. See if you can just find a happy medium between the two. Have a hot bath, have a hot shower. Start to bring in some of those self-care rituals so that if you're feeling stressed and if you're, I've just mentioned the low progesterone symptoms, just start to bring in this self-care throughout your cycle. And I'm going to end there. I'm going to pop my notes to one side. So I hope this deep dive into the 4 seasons over the last 3 weeks has helped. If you have any questions, please reach out and let me know. I am going to take a week off and then I will be back. I have some amazing guest podcasts already recorded. They're ready to go. I'm going to save them. I just wanted to talk about the inner seasons because it had been a while since we've done that. So as always, thank you so much for listening. Let me know if you have any questions and I will see you maybe in 2 weeks when I'm in Bali, and hopefully you'll come and spend the day with me in Bali. One of my Wellth Wednesdays will be spend the day with me in Bali. So come with me and I will see you all there.